Life in those days was different from what most people today can imagine. We lived in a society that was agrarian, with families tending to their flocks and fields. The community was close-knit, and we had strong familial bonds that held us together. My wife, Nama, and our 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, were the center of my world. We worked together daily, cultivating the land and raising our livestock. Despite the growing corruption around us, our family tried to live by the principles handed down from our forefathers. We believed in the importance of faith, integrity, and hard work, values that seemed increasingly rare in those times. I remember my grandfather Lamech telling me stories about our ancestors, passing down the wisdom and traditions that had been in our family for generations. As a child, I often sat at his feet, fascinated by the tales of Adam and Eve, the first humans, and how we were all descendants of these early patriarchs. My father, Methuselah, was a towering figure in my life, not just because of his age, he lived to be 969 years old, but also because of his wisdom and unwavering faith. Our family line, tracing back to Seth, the 3rd son of Adam and Eve, was known for its righteousness and close relationship with God. However, the society around us was rapidly deteriorating. People were turning away from God, indulging in all sorts of immoral and corrupt behaviors. It was a time of great spiritual decay, and it seemed that the more humanity advanced, the further they strayed from the path of righteousness. Despite this, we tried to maintain our faith and live according to the teachings of our ancestors. This growing corruption set the stage for what was to come, divine intervention that would forever change the course of human history. As I grew older, it became increasingly clear that the world around us was falling apart. The moral and spiritual decay was not just a minor issue, it was pervasive and overwhelming. Everywhere I looked, people were engaging in violence, greed, and all manner of wickedness. It was heartbreaking to see how far humanity had fallen from the ideals that were supposed to guide us. The earth was filled with corruption and violence, and it seemed that every thought and intention of man's heart was only evil continually. One day, as I was tending to my fields, I felt a profound presence around me, something I had never experienced before. It was then that God spoke to me, revealing his sorrow and anger at the state of the world. He told me of his plan to bring a great flood to cleanse the earth of its corruption, but he also offered a glimmer of hope. God commanded me to build an ark, a massive vessel that would preserve my family and a pair of every living creature. This was not just a daunting task, it was a divine mission, a call to save the remnants of creation from impending doom. The weight of this responsibility was immense. I knew that following God's command would not be easy, and I would face ridicule and opposition from the very people I was trying to save. But my faith was strong, and I understood the gravity of the situation. I gathered my family and shared with them God's message and our new mission. Together, we prepared to undertake the monumental task of building the ark, fully aware of the challenges that lay ahead, but resolute in our commitment to obey God's command. Building the ark was an enormous undertaking, both physically and emotionally. God provided me with detailed instructions on how to construct this colossal vessel, specifying its dimensions, materials, and design. The ark was to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, made of gopher wood and sealed inside and out with pitch to make it watertight. It needed to have 3 decks, a roof, and a single door on its side. This was no small feat, and I knew it would require immense effort and resources. We began gathering the necessary materials, cutting down trees, and shaping the wood according to God's specifications. My sons and I labored tirelessly, day in and day out, to build the ark. We faced numerous obstacles, from logistical challenges to the sheer physical strain of the work. But perhaps the most difficult challenge was the ridicule and disbelief from our neighbors. People mocked us, calling us madmen for building such a massive boat in the middle of dry land. They couldn't comprehend the impending disaster and saw our efforts as foolish and pointless. Despite the naysayers, we pressed on, driven by our faith and the knowledge that we were fulfilling a divine purpose. My family and I supported each other through the long, hard days, finding strength in our unity and shared mission. Slowly but surely, the ark began to take shape, standing as a testament to our dedication and unwavering trust in God's plan. As the ark neared completion, we prepared for the next phase of our mission, gathering the animals and provisions needed to survive the coming flood. When the day finally came, dark clouds gathered on the horizon, and the sky took on an ominous hue. The animals arrived in pairs, guided by a divine instinct, and we led them onto the ark, making sure each species had a place. It was a sight to behold: lions and lambs, eagles and doves, all coexisting peacefully as they boarded the vessel. Once everyone was inside, God Himself shut the door of the ark, sealing us in and marking the beginning of the great flood. The rain began to fall, slowly at first, then with increasing intensity. The heavens opened and water poured down in torrents, while the fountains of the great deep burst forth. The earth was soon engulfed in water, and the ark was lifted from the ground, tossed about by the waves. Inside, we could hear the relentless pounding of the rain and the roar of the surging waters. It was a terrifying ordeal, but we clung to our faith and each other, trusting that God would see us through this cataclysm. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months as the deluge continued. The ark became our entire world, a floating sanctuary amidst the chaos. We tended to the animals, ensuring they were fed and cared for, and tried to maintain a sense of normalcy in our daily routines. The sound of the rain and the rocking of the ark became a constant backdrop to our lives. It was a test of endurance and faith, but we held on, knowing that God had a purpose for us and that this storm would eventually come to an end. Finally, after 40 days and nights of relentless rain, the deluge ceased and the waters began to recede. It was a slow process, taking months for the waters to return to their proper place. We waited patiently, sending out a raven and then a dove to see if the land had re-emerged. When the dove returned with an olive leaf in its beak, we knew that the earth was beginning to heal. Eventually, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, and we knew it was time to start anew. As we stepped out of the ark onto dry land, the world looked vastly different from the one we had known. The landscape had been reshaped by the flood waters, and there was a profound sense of cleansing and renewal. We built an altar and offered sacrifices to God, thanking Him for our survival and seeking His guidance for the future. It was then that God made a covenant with us, a promise that He would never again destroy the earth with a flood. As a sign of this covenant, He placed a rainbow in the sky, a symbol of His enduring promise and mercy. This new covenant marked the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. We were given the responsibility to repopulate the earth and to live in accordance with God's will. It was a daunting task, but also a hopeful one. We had witnessed the devastating consequence of corruption and disobedience, and we were determined to build a better, more righteous world. The rainbow that appeared after the storm was a constant reminder of God's promise and our duty to uphold the values of faith and integrity. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that the story of the flood and the ark is not just a tale of survival, but a profound lesson in faith, obedience, and resilience. My willingness to heed God's call, despite the overwhelming odds and the mockery of others, is a testament to the power of unwavering faith. It shows that even in the darkest times, there is hope and the possibility of redemption if we remain steadfast in our beliefs and actions. The story of the flood has been passed down through generations, becoming a cornerstone of religious and cultural traditions. It serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of moral and spiritual decay and the importance of living a life that is pleasing to God. The lessons of obedience and righteousness that my family and I embodied continue to resonate with people, inspiring them to strive for a higher standard of living and to remain faithful even in the face of adversity. Ultimately, the legacy of Noah is one of hope and renewal. It reminds us that no matter how dire the circumstances, there is always the potential for a fresh start. The covenant symbolized by the rainbow is a promise of God's enduring love and mercy, encouraging us to live in harmony with His will and with each other. By remembering and honoring the lessons of my story, future generations can learn to build a world that reflects the values of faith, integrity, and compassion. And just like that, my friends, we find ourselves at the end of this incredible journey. Reflecting on Noah's story, we see a man who faced overwhelming odds, skepticism, and the sheer weight of an unfathomable mission. He wasn't just building an ark, he was building a legacy of faith and obedience. Imagine the strength it took to stand firm while everyone around him doubted. How often do we find ourselves in similar situations where our faith is tested and our resolve is questioned? Noah's unwavering commitment is a powerful reminder that even in the face of ridicule and impossibilities, faith can move mountains, or in his case, float an ark. As we wrap up today, I want you to think about this. What are the arcs in your life that you are called to build? What seemingly impossible tasks are you facing that require a leap of faith? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about the modern-day challenges we face and how we can channel our inner Noah to navigate through them. And before you go, if Noah's story has inspired you even a fraction as much as it has inspired me, share this video with someone who might need a little faith boost today. Remember, we are all building something, piece by piece, day by day. How will your story be told? How will your faith shape your journey? Until next time, stay blessed and keep building your ark.